This is Sri Lanka, a tiny island located in the Indian Ocean. Some call it the Pearl of Indian Ocean. Can you see the weave? Beautiful, isn't it? This is how actually the youth enjoy their weekends. They used to travel, do hiking, enjoy the nature, taking long trips in the wild. Can you experience the beauty of this island? And this is how they do camping. Can you hear the bird noises? This place looks completely amazing, isn't it? And if you ever came to Sri Lanka, you wouldn't ever forget to take the train. Have you ever booked any accommodation near the beach? Do you feel the wind? Isn't it amazing? The number one tourist destination back in 2018. So what actually went wrong with this country?
An economic crisis in Sri Lanka which is becoming increasingly dramatic, with residents' life savings virtually disappearing into thin air.
Residents' life savings disappearing into thin air?
One estimate from Johns Hopkins University shows real inflation at over 130% in March.
Real inflation rate is 133%.
Times the official rate by the government. Nearly everything is in short supply, especially imported goods.
Short of supplies, fuel, medicine, food, electronic items, continuous supply of electricity. This long traffic is caused by the fuel queues. People are waiting in line to buy gas cylinders for months.
The government is even asking airlines to stop refueling in the country to save on fuel.
The airlines travel to India to refuel themselves and come back to Sri Lanka to take the passengers of Sri Lanka.
One of the reasons for the crisis is the corona-induced slump in tourism.
The pandemic. It caused the country to go under a lockdown for several times. This was a global event. We can't blame the government for that because it was all over the world and this was completely new. There weren't any lessons prepared. Nobody knew how to deal with the pandemic unless other countries give an example for it.
Confirmed as the first COVID-19 infected local this morning. He has been admitted to the Infectious Diseases Hospital in Angoda on Monday, displaying coronavirus symptoms.
Political misstep. Wrong decisions implemented within wrong time periods actually impact the economy. You need to see the example. Watch this.
On top of that, there were political missteps, such as the ban on artificial fertilizers. The result? An agricultural crisis, an industry that employs a particularly large number of people in Sri Lanka.
Sudden complete ban on chemical-based fertilizer, but what they were expecting? Giant rice balls or pumpkins, or are there any vegetable to pop out in thin air? Just like nothing.
Farmers say the government make farming 100% organic is their livelihood.
The government wants us to listen to ministers, not agricultural experts. But experts say this won't work.
Protest begins smaller. Very small communities start the protest in different locations within the country. And the first movers was the farmers.
The government banned the import of fertilizers and other agricultural chemicals earlier this year after a currency shortage. It wants farmers to use organic alternatives.
The Federal Reserve vanished into thin air without any strategic planning. They weren't prepared for the economic crisis ahead.
Coming in from Sri Lanka, the government has run out of cash to buy fuel. Most of the pumps at the filling stations across the country are running dry. On Monday, 2 shipments of fuel arrived in Sri Lanka, but the country was unable to pay for it.
Can you imagine how people will react to these things? How would you feel if you had no continuous electricity supply and no fuel to go to work, no food in any supermarkets that you want to buy, and if you were sick, You need medicine. And if medicine wasn't available, what do you think people would do? Island-wide protesters gathered to Galleface and they made Gotagogama the village of democratic protest. Gotagogama was a symbol of democratic and peaceful protesting. The protesters were capable of capturing the Gate Zero. On May 9th, the politically led mobs attacked the protesters. People got confused, angry, and they went rages.
Angry, frustrated, and desperate, Sri Lankans surrounded the president's office in Colombo, fed up having to queue for food, medicine, cooking gas, and vehicle fuel, paying 30 to 60% more for many items. Millions are struggling to make ends meet and blame President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the government.
Following up the attack that took place on Gotagogama, civilians became very aggressive. They attacked all the mobs and the buses which they came. Place at the Gotagogama, civilians became aggressive towards the mobs who attacked the Gotagogama peaceful protesters. They were dragged down from the buses and they were beaten on the road. This situation escalated everything inside Sri Lanka. Hence, mobs attacked the buses and travelers from distance. This actually provided spaces within the society to increase crime rate as well. And at certain locations, people who have traveled from distance were beaten and smuggled. Emergency law was implemented with the tense situation. Entire country was on fire. Certain ministers were killed and certain ministers' houses were burned to ashes. The mobs who attacked the peaceful protest were attacked back by the civilians in different locations. They were tracing the bus numbers and following up with them. This situation actually caused the government to implement emergency law in country. On July 9, there was a historic day, and this is a moment where a security personnel who is attached to the Sri Lanka police left his job and joined the people's movement. People from everywhere Sri Lanka came to Colombo and they joined the Gotagogama protest and kept the pressure towards the presidential secretariat office. The defensive force was implemented to protect the president, but fortunately, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was able to fly off Sri Lanka. Protesters were capable to capture the presidential secretariat office and they were protesting till the president left the country. This is actually footage taken from that day when people surrounded the presidential secretary. You can see the defensive forces are firing to scare the people and send them off, but they didn't stop. Vikramasinghe became the interim president just after Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigning from executive presidency. The things didn't stop there. Still there is political pressure between the executive president and the protesters. Still the problem is not over and inflation is real. To bring down this inflation to a considerable level in Sri Lanka, it requires the effort from the political authorities as well as the citizens. The economy is yet in dire condition. So people have to work out, develop the exports and consider on reducing the dollar consumption.
Singh has been elected as the president of Sri Sri Lanka just days after Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled the country and resigned, while Sri Lanka's lawmakers voting today for a new president and making a clear choice. Acting president and former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will be the country's next president until 20.
Back in 2017, I was developing a mobile app as a meta marketing solution for the market. Since 2017, I was working over it till 2022, but things didn't go well relating with this situation. So what happened to my project and who I am, and to tell you about my story and what I do have to do with this whole incident. Stay tuned. We'll see you on next video.